Now, throughout 2022 and the beginning of 2023, effects of climate change have immensely affected Africa and the world, from catastrophic floods in Pakistan and Nigeria to Cyclone Freddy consuming Malawi, Mozambique and Madagascar, and more recently the biting drought. Climate change has brought misery to millions of people in Africa. And here at home, the drought affected about 4.2 million people across the counties. Heat waves and wildfires across the northern hemisphere have also caused a huge disruption of life. Now, as the world keeps getting warmer, the recently released Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports suggest that countries need to reduce carbon emissions to avert the climate change impacts. Beldin Waleaule has more on what we need to do to make the earth livable.
The rapid climate change we are now seeing is caused by humans using oil, gas and coal in their homes, factories and transport. When these fossil fuels burn, they release greenhouse gases, mostly carbon dioxide. These gases trap the sun's heat and cause the planet's temperature to rise. The world is now about 1.1 degrees Celsius warmer than it was in the 19th century, and the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has risen by 50%.
When you hear climate change, it's very much about how climate now is basically posing an existential threat to human beings. We know now that human activities very much contribute to climate change.
In addition to drought, African populations are experiencing floods, heat waves, and outbreak of climate change-related diseases.
According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change IPCC report released in late March, it says the world temperatures need to come down as greenhouse gas emissions are projected to go above 1.5 degrees Celsius between the years 2030 and 2035, or even beyond, hence increasing global warming.
You hear mostly that we need to ensure that the temperatures remain at 1.5 C before our pre-industrial age. And so that means everything we do must be very much mitigated. That's why you hear mitigation. We have to adapt where we can. But because now we know that the planet is warming anyway, so there's something in the atmosphere, which is CO2. And so as much as we want to limit the emissions, we now must think of removing some of these emissions that we put in. So think about it as planetary waste removal.
To keep temperatures within 1.5 degrees Celsius limit, carbon emissions need to be reduced by at least 43% by 2030 and at least 60% by 2035. And this is the time to start making the changes. While speaking at the 3rd Regional Symposium on Greening Judiciaries in Africa, President William Ruto said countries have no option but to go green.
Do we continue the fossil fuel powered industrialization, which is destroying our globe with disastrous effects, or do we go green?
Governments agreed at last year's COP27 climate summit in Egypt to create a fund to help pay for the damage that a warming planet is inflicting on vulnerable countries, but failed to commit to new measures for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Africa is the least emitting continent, but bears the most burden of climate change.
We need to continuously have a political conversation that then ensures countries put laws and limits to how much we emit, and countries that emit more need to compensate or work with countries that emit less.
Among other measures to ensure energy systems are net zero carbon emitters, a substantial reduction in overall fossil fuel use, minimal use of unabated fossil fuels, and use of carbon capture and storage in the remaining fossil fuel systems, and energy conservation are part of the solutions fronted to reduce global warming.
You hear, don't pollute. Think about changing how you use energy, whether it's for even clean cooking technologies, how vehicles now have to emit less, but also go to electrical vehicles, how industries must now think about other alternative sources of energy that don't pollute the air. So it's an all-in effort. I think beyond industry, it's also how we live, how we work, how we learn.
Belden Waliaula, KTN News.
Well, that's where we wrap a News Center. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Fatia Noor. Yanayo Jiri is up next with Hadia Mosiwa.